here has read the story by Dr. Seuss, Oh, the Places You'll Go? A number of you. So for those you who haven't, when it's graduation time come May, you'll see it in all the bookstores and on Amazon. It's a great graduation book that talks about just choice, about the ups and downs that you're going to face in life, about overcoming those challenges, and really about empowerment and choice. And so I thought it was a really good analogy for today's talk. And again, if you'd like story hour at the end, I'm happy to read the story at the end of the talk, if we have time, if anyone's interested. So, without further ado, we're going to move forward and on this presentation, and we're going to open, this is a little fuzzy because I took it from Google, but a quote from the book, but I think it really does kind of illustrate why I think this is an appropriate analogy for walking problems and falls and MS. So it says, you have brains in your head, so you have feet in your shoes, you can steer yourself any direction you choose. You're on your own, and you know what you know, and you are the one who will decide where you go. So you have brains in your head. Okay, MS is a neurological disease. So that was perfect. So brain, spinal cord. You have feet in your shoes. We're talking about walking and balance problems. I thought, great, that works good. You can steer yourself any direction you choose. And I think Dr. Green alluded to this a little bit, that a lot of addressing walking and fall prevention in MS is about making good choices. Okay, about seeing what resources we have with us, exploring other resources, and making those day-to-day decisions that really help move us forward and help us go places. And the last couple lines, you're on your own, you know what you know. I would have to say not appropriate, because you're not on your own. I mean, ultimately, you make your own choice, but you have a whole team of individuals here with the MS Center, within the MS community here in St. Louis, within your families and support. So hopefully you do feel that you have a collective group to pull from as you move forward with making choices about your walking balance and what you're going to do with your life and with your MS. So what I'd like to do before we take this journey is take a little bit of a poll and get an idea of kind of background and set our direction. So this is a talk, so I don't get to talk individually one-on-one with each of you. We will take time for questions, but I did want to get an idea of where you guys are as individuals with your MS. So Dr. Green spoke about different things that cause walking balance challenges. So I have a few of them listed up here, and you can see I have an all the above category. And I think I could have added a most of the above, because maybe many of them a bit, but not all of them. So who here, show of hands, has problems with walking? Okay. How about falls? Okay. How about stiffness or that spasticity? Okay, a number of people. How about weakness? Number of people. How about fatigue? People. Loss of sensation, so either numbness and tingling, the vertigo, visual problems. Okay, so then all of the above at some level or maybe at some point, because we know MS can fluctuate, so maybe at some point you've had a challenge in one of those areas and now you're maybe in a different place. Okay, so thank you very much. That helps me kind of see where you guys are. And I think that's important because when we go through this talk, what I tried to do was give really general strategies that everyone could take away at least 2 or 3 important points from this talk, and then try to give a little bit more detail kind of towards those underlying factors that impact different people. So the next one is, what are your goals? So we don't necessarily have to do a show of hands here, but hopefully a couple of these speak to you about why you're here today and why you're taking an opportunity to learn more about what you can do for your walking, balance, and fall prevention. So these are things that I often hear people telling me as a physical therapist, that they want more independence, they want to be more confident and self-assured in their walking. Often they want to walk normal again, is what I hear, but walk faster, less effort. They're often concerned about falls and wanting to have more confidence and feel safer when they're out moving. And partly because all those things, when these goals aren't met, they feel limited and they feel like they can't get out and do the things that they want to do because of these concerns. So getting that life back. I want to return to the things that are important to me in my life. So hopefully as you move forward, you're thinking about kind of what are maybe your goals that you're wanting for yourself for your walking and balance and falls, and keeping that in mind to see what you can take away from this talk. Okay, so again, what can you do to help help your walking and to prevent falls? All right, so first, just a couple quick definitions, and I know Dr. Green already spent a lot of time talking about walking. So I here just had a kind of long definition that says walking is basically a coordinated cyclic flexion and extension movement of the legs, meaning that it's very rhythmic typically. You walk and it's It's bend or flexion and then extension to put your weight through. So there's always that opposing motion of bending and straightening as we walk. And we know that walking is mediated by both the spinal cord with what we call CPGs, which are central pattern generators, which just means that there's reflective parts in your spinal cord that actually help you walk and make it very automatic. Because most of the time when we're walking, if our body's working optimally, we don't think about our walking. I don't think about lifting my foot every time. I just start walking and I go. My body naturally moves through those patterns. But there's also then cortical control, so the brain definitely has a big influence on our choices with walking. If I see fall obstacles, I can choose to see that, interpret that information, and to lift my leg higher. So I can take my brain and I can modify my movements to fit my goals and to fit my surroundings. Most people understand what a fall is, but up here it's an unexpected contact with the ground or lower surface. So sometimes people don't count the falls where they hit the chair. Okay, but technically those are falls as well. And then a near fall. Often how people describe to me that they're really not falling all the time, but they're having all these close calls where they have a loss of balance and a stumble, but then they're able to take a step or they're able to reach for something and they'll prevent a fall. And we're concerned about near falls though too, because that says that you're really running that risk factor, that you're really kind of on the border of crossing into a fall category. And if someone's had one fall, I'm not as concerned. A number of us have had one fall. It's when we get into that recurrent fall category, meaning we've had at least two or more falls in like a 6-month period, where we start to be concerned, okay? Not that any fall is not concerning. We want to know about each and every fall that you have. So if you have a mess and you have a fall, please do share that with your family. Don't hide it, and your healthcare providers, okay? But where we really start to get concerned is when we start to see that pattern. So hopefully a few of you had an opportunity to see the article that I wrote in the MS Center newsletter, and I outlined these basic 10 strategies. So we're going to take the time today to go in through each of them a little bit more in depth. So the first one is increase awareness, and I doubt you can read this, so I'm going to share it with you. When I was looking for fun creative images for my PowerPoint slides, I saw this. And I thought, I'm going to put this up here because I'm going to break some of these rules. So I might as well tell on myself in the beginning and just get it out of there. So it says, warning, do not say these things to someone with a chronic disabling condition. Well, I would say number one, don't call it disabling. I would call it chronic challenging condition because it's not disabling for everybody. So don't say these things. Don't say, you don't look sick. I'm tired myself today. It must be nice not having to go to work. I wish I could stay in bed all day. You should get out more. You need more exercise. I'm going to break that one. Everyone get aches and pains. Stop being so lazy. Get a job. It's all in your head. You're just depressed. You just need to think positive. There are others worse than you. Snap out of it. Oh, I had that. I'm fine now. And you need to do this. Okay, so I put this out here because you've probably heard these things, and coming from your perspective, I'm sure it's frustrating sometimes to hear these things from people, and to put it out there that I'm going to break some of these rules because I'm going to talk about the importance of exercise today, and I'm going to talk about thinking positive today, but I recognize the whole context of how that comes across, okay? So you guys feel free to keep me honest at any point if I cross that line, okay? All right, so the first thing that I talked about for working on walking well and falling less is awareness. And I put this number one because in my years as a therapist, in my years teaching fall prevention classes, awareness is the strategy that people with MS keep telling me is the one that they use, okay? The thing that they take away from that time that we've spent together and working on walking and fall prevention is that I really need to be aware of myself and my surroundings. And when I increase my awareness and I'm thinking about what I'm doing, I can really walk better, walk further, and fall less. Okay? And so what I put here for walking is it says to think or not to think. So I put that in there because what I'm saying with awareness is you do need to think about your walking. Okay? If you have challenges and you have weakness and your foot drops and it's not lifting well, often you're going to have to think about picking your foot up a little bit more to step over an obstacle. Okay? And that's okay. We need you to do that. The reason I put not to think is that walking, I said earlier, should be automatic. So people tell me I had to think about my walking all the time, and it helps me, but it's frustrating because I have to think about my walking all the time, and I can't talk to people and do things because I'm thinking about my walking all the time. So how do we resolve this conflict? And that's where it comes down to it depends on each individual, but for what we often do in therapy is we start with first thinking about your walking. Okay, if you're having challenges, let's make it a priority to think about to move better, to move more effectively, and to be safe in our movements. So in therapy, we'll give a lot of different instructions often about, okay, we do a walking assessment, we see how you move, see what kind of gait pattern you fit in, whether it's that more spastic gait pattern, more of a weakness gait pattern with a foot drop. And we talk about, okay, this is what we need you to try to do. Relax your leg a little bit more and try to not be so stiff in your movements. Try to bend your knee a little bit more and try to lift that foot higher. Step over the garden hose is my favorite one. Okay, think about you're picking up your foot like you're stepping over a garden hose. That kind of cue of, and there's my garden hose right there. Step over the garden hose, not on it. Can be very helpful to trigger the brain to move in the right patterns, okay? If the body is adaptable and responding well to those patterns, and it has the potential to keep gaining more and more strength, for some individuals, we can start progressing that to where we do things called dual task training. So now your body's getting better. Hopefully you're starting to be more automatic in your movements. Now we're gonna have you step over the obstacles while you're talking out loud or counting backwards or doing another task with your hands, okay? So ideally we wanna move from having to think about your walking all the time to making it more automatic, but it really depends on the person and where they are, okay? But that first step is usually always taking a moment to be aware of your movements and thinking about them. The second one here is for falls, and it says stop, scan, and plan. Has anyone heard those 3 words before? Stop, scan, and plan? Yes, I've heard one. Thank you. So this comes direct. I'll give credit again where credit is due. I think I know where this came from. I got this from the National MS Society Free from Fall program, where they say stop, scan, and plan. And I really like it because what it has you do is thinking about stop, scanning yourself and your environment, and then planning your movements before you do them. Okay? And I think the scanning is very important, that we not only think about scanning our environment, like I've alluded to a couple times already about obstacles, but scanning ourselves. Because we know with MS, yourself can change, hour by hour. So you need to think about when you're making a plan of where you're going to move and how you're going to do something, well, how's your energy level right now? You may have felt pretty good this morning, but now it's afternoon, and maybe scanning yourself realize that, wow, I am feeling a lot weaker than I was earlier today. I might need to take a different course of action because I'm feeling that my body's not as optimal as I'd like it to be right now, okay? So taking that moment to stop, scan both yourself and your environment, and then making that plan about, okay, I can choose to get from this point over to there in the room right now, but then I'm going to need to take a break and rest before I go out to my car and plan my next trip that I'm going to do that day. Or, this morning, I could use my cane for walking around the house, but now I know that I'm going to be going out a much longer distance walking in the community. There's going to be obstacles coming up. I'm going to take my walker with me. Okay, so making appropriate decisions about equipment and things that we might use. Okay, so the next one is exercise. So exercise is a big thing in the therapist toolbox that we use. Okay, so if you've ever been to therapy, they've probably talked about exercise in some component. And what's great about exercise is it's low cost overall, minimal side effects, okay? So it really just one of those things that keeps on giving. And there are 4 main categories with exercise. So we have strength, which is kind of like your resistance category. So doing things to build muscles, to build strength. Balance. So neuromuscular control, being able to integrate information from the senses, from your vision, from the feeling through your feet, pulling that together to have good control and coordinated movements. Flexibility or stretching sorts of exercises. And then finally we have aerobic endurance, which is kind of like your cardio. Okay? That most of the time when they talk about what the American physicians groups talk about for health benefits is the cardio. They want you getting 150 minutes of some sort of cardio a week, which is supposed to have the most benefit for your cardiac health. Okay. With MS, typically all 4 of these are important in MS, but it really depends on where your priority is on what sort of things that challenge you. So for an example, if you're someone that has a lot of spasticity, stretching is going to be one of your biggest friends. Okay? Stretching frequently throughout the day. Okay? If you've got tightness in the calf muscle and it's pulling the foot down, then doing your heel cord stretch 3 times a day is going to be really important. Okay? So doing the one where you get that foot back behind you and you lean forward to get a good stretch in through the calf. Doing it off the edge of the bottom step, things like that are going to be really important. If you're someone that has, again, weakness, that's driving a weakness on one side of your body, then a strengthening program to target the specific muscles for you that are weak are very important. balance. Again, if you have problems with your balance, then there are specific exercises that we give people to work on balance challenges. And it really depends on what part of your balance is giving you trouble. Is it your ability to just stand still in balance? Is it ability to shift your weight when you're trying to move? Is it your ability to coordinate control with your movements, with placing your body where you want it to be? Like when you step, that if you have that, like Dr. Green was talking about, like some of the sensory ataxia, where your feet are way far apart and you have trouble putting your foot where you want it to go, then we give certain balance exercises where you work on, guess what? Hitting a target with your foot, okay? So depending on what your balance challenges are, which is where an individualized assessment can really help get a program that's best for you. And then the cardiac endurance is an important piece because, one, just for overall health benefits, but as well as help combat some of the endurance problems that we see with MS. So people are challenged in ability to walk distances, so we want to make sure we build up their core reserve to help them walk further. The thing that I always get with people with MS, they talk about, well, I do all these things, but then I have an attack. And it seems like all my hard work goes away, and it's frustrating. And I always like to remind people that all of your hard work did not completely go away. Exercising on a regular basis builds your reserve to bounce back. So even though sometimes it's frustrating because you feel like you have to start over again, or maybe you're not seeing yourself progress the way you would like to progress, where now you can do, 3 sets of an exercise and you're feeling that you're able to lift more weights every day. If you're someone that instead feels like I'm kind of staying at the same level, I can't move myself forward, as long as you're challenging yourself at a somewhat hard intensity level every day, then you're doing exactly what your body needs. Okay, so not everyone's going to progress in that same typical pattern that we expect, but as long as you're challenging your body to work hard, you're hitting your body at the right level. And if you were to try to do more than that, you would be overdoing it. And then you'd be in bed the next day and you'd be calling me frustrated, okay? So it's finding that balance, and that's what it says here about starting moderate intensity level, being safe in your activities, and then having it to be a challenge. So again, you need to feel like you're working hard. With the balance exercises, I tell people they should be challenging but doable. So if you can do something like stand like here and hold, this is a balance exercise for many people, just being able to stand in one spot and take their hands off the walker. Okay, but if you can do this and it's easy, then this is not a balance exercise really for me at this level, okay? You might need to do something where you have to balance on one foot to make your challenge so you're working hard. But if I try to balance on one foot and I can't hold it up at all and I'm constantly just putting my foot back down, then I'm not able to do that level of a balance activity. That's too challenging, okay? So I need to pick something in between, like doing something where I put my toe on the ground. So I have most of my weight on this leg and I'm just using this leg for a little bit of support. Okay, this is my modified tree pose. Okay, I am a yogi, I like my yoga. Okay, so tree is supposed to be like this, which is pretty hard, don't laugh if I lose it. But if you put your toe down, it's a lot easier to do. So in therapy, what we do is find ways to modify basic exercise and make them harder or easier. And then it's our job to make you expert therapists as well in your own way of how to figure out for you, how can you modify things to make it harder and easier. Okay, again, because sometimes you're going to have days where you have a good day or a bad day. On a bad day, you need to be able to still need exercise. And then finally is have fun, okay? You need to find activities that you do enjoy and find environments that encourage you and reward you to keep exercising. So there's a link to, this is a document you can pull straight from the internet, and you can actually call the Canadian Physical Activity Center, and they can actually send it to you as well through the mail. But this came out last year in 2013 when basically a couple of researchers scoured all the literature to kind of come up and pull the evidence together to see what is the minimum amount of exercise that we're recommending for people with MS, okay, that have maybe mild to moderate walking and balance challenges. And what they came up with from the literature is a minimum of 30 minutes of moderate intensity 2 times per week, okay? It doesn't have to all be in one block of 30 minutes. You can do interval training and do 10 minutes morning, 10 minutes afternoon, 10 minutes later. And you can always start with 10 and work up over a number of weeks to months to get to 30. And then strength training exercises for major muscle groups 2 times per week, again at a moderate intensity level. And it said they found from looking at the literature that these guidelines should hopefully help reduce fatigue, improve mobility, which is getting around point A to point B, and also potentially enhance elements of quality of life. They also have on that article a little bit more details about how to do that. So I'm not going to cover all this today, I need to keep moving forward, but this gives you an example of how to increase, how to modify things a little bit, and what are some examples of those different activities, okay? So again, you have a link to that resource. So my strategy, we did strategy 1 was awareness, strategy 2 was exercise. I'll try not to talk so much about the next ones. So the next one is environmental changes at home and work. And this is a busy slide, so let me just orient you. So the 2 pictures are supposed to be examples of maybe some fall hazards. Can you guys see this one at all? See this circle? Can you make it clear what it's showing you might be a fall hazard? Yeah, it's got a mat on top of a stair. Never a good idea, okay? That could easily cause someone to trip and slide, especially at the top of the step. What about the top corner there? What do you guys see over there? Clutter. That's what my home looks like sometimes when my kids have made a mess. I never make a mess. So clutter can be a big thing that can get in the way because, again, it sets up hazards for things for you to trip over. So when we think about environmental changes at home and work, we want to think about, and we do this sometimes in rehab and in fall prevention program, is taking pictures of your home, going through it step by step, figuring out what for you and your home is a fall hazard and where could you make some improvements. The other 2 kind of schematics talk about, this is supposed to show you a bathroom setup. It's very busy, but it talks about how there's lots of different ways you can adapt a bathroom to make it more efficient and work well for you, like putting grab bars, ideally having a roll-in shower so you don't have to step over that shower lip. So there's different ways that you can design your home space to basically give back, okay? The next one over here just shows both sitting and standing workstation postures. So when you think about spending energy and sitting, we don't usually think of that as a high energy task, but when you're sitting for a long time, and if you're using poor posture to sit at a bad angle, you're definitely taking a lot of energy just to hold your head up. Your head's like 6 pounds. You need to get your head to line up over the bones in your spinal column to do the work. You don't want to be using all your muscles to hold your head up the whole time, okay? So by using good posture and setting up your workstation to allow you to be in good posture, you're going to save energy and also save and reduce pain as well. And it shows both a sitting and a standing workstation there. And my key point with this is that often people are challenged to make changes at home because it seems like a lot of work to put in a grab bar or to hire someone to help you clean your house because you're not in a place to do it right now. And it just seems like a lot of work sometimes to do these changes. But what's nice about these changes is once they're done, all they do is keep giving back to you. The exercise, I have to admit it, you got to keep doing it, okay? You just can't exercise a couple weeks and then be done the rest of your life, okay? You got to keep that up, all right? That's the downside of exercise. But with these sort of things, you can make some modifications, and once you invested that work, again, good return on your investment. They just keep giving back. So I encourage you to think about that. We've done whole talks on energy management, so I just have one slide in here today just to recognize, as I think Dr. Green spoke about, how with MS unique challenges that fatigue can play into walking and fall prevention, is that fatigue can very much contribute to walking and fall problems, okay? And so often when I'm working with people in therapy, we spend a lot of time talking about fatigue and energy management, because if we can't manage the fatigue well, then you're not gonna have the energy to do your exercises, you're not gonna have the energy to do the activities and really maximize your walking and balance. So I just gave you the little piggy bank analogy because I think it's a great one about saving, depositing, and spending your energy dollars wisely. Because just like your bank account, it's not unlimited. Okay, so you only got so much of it. Everyone's different. So spend it wisely. Invest in it with using naps, with using exercise, with using equipment to save on energy. The next one here is tools and equipment. And I put tools in there as a terminology because I had a gentleman last week tell me that he finally realized that his cane was a tool. He's like, just like my phone, just like the lawnmower, it's a tool. Okay, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's a sign that I'm giving in. It's a sign that I refuse to give in and that I'm going to keep moving forward and staying engaged in my life. And I found myself telling someone the other day that the walker, when I pulled it out, was like your portable walls. Many people will tell me that they're very comfortable and will readily admit that they use walls for walking. And that doesn't seem to bother them. But the cane or the walker is a kind of a whole different game, and I get that. But I'm like, well, here's your portable walls, and just take your walls with you when you go. Okay? Wall walking works, but it's not a very safe strategy because while yes, that wall is very stable, unless I would push on this one, which is not stable, they're only in certain places, okay? And so then you have to accommodate the walls. You gotta walk where the walls are, you gotta lean over to where the furniture is, and you gotta end up walking like this, okay? So you're letting your world dictate you. Versus if you take your portable walls with you, you get to stand tall with good posture, be more efficient and safe in your movements, okay? And then go where the walls aren't, okay? I put up in here an elevator. Who here has ever used an elevator? Did you feel bad about that? No, me either, okay? We need to recognize as our society, sometimes maybe we are a little sedentary as a group, but when the building and it's 30 stories high, yes, I use the elevator, and I don't feel guilty about that, okay? So again, we all have choices. I put shoes up here as well. Okay, because having the right shoe wear can make a big difference, okay? A lot of times women, they like their flip-flops. They like their cute sandals, and so I encourage you to talk to your peers and find the great place to shop. But there are some that are a little more fashionable than others, and I put this up as an example of with sandals, I like to have a back strap as well as a front strap. If you at least can get those straps that really hold your shoe to your foot, that is going to give you good support. And here we can see actually has a nice sole on it as well, okay? The other ones up here you guys are probably somewhat familiar with. We have a folding cane, we have a reacher, we have a forearm crutch there in the far corner, a rolling walker, and then Dr. Green mentioned an orthotist and leg braces. So this is an example of what we call an AFO, or an ankle foot orthotic, which just describes where it goes on your body, on your ankle and your foot, and it's an orthotic. Orthotic meaning it's a piece of equipment that supports your body in some way. And an orthotist is a person that fabricates or orders and helps make decisions on what is the right brace for you. And often in our clinic, we usually ideally like to do that in collaboration with the therapist, where we sit down together with the orthotist and you, and we talk about what are the needs, potentially an orthotic for you if you have foot drop, which is what this one usually addresses, to help hold the foot up with walking, and what type of orthotic is going to work best for you, okay? What type of shoe wear do you wear? Will you wear shoes because you don't like to wear shoes? Will you consider it? That's a big piece. Can you get it on and off? Sometimes I have braces that work great, but people really struggle to get them on and off. Well, then that's not going to work well. So we help problem solve through all those different things. So the main point here is recognizing that I tell people, be an informed consumer. Know your options. And just knowing that these things exist truly don't mean that you know how they work for you. Okay? So that's where I tell people, take the advantage of being in therapy, seeing the orthotist, and actually trying these things on so you can make an informed decision about whether or not you like it or you don't like it. So we'll talk about this in a minute, about having a thoughtful response versus a reactive response. So sometimes an event happens or we see something and we immediately form an opinion about what that is, and then we have a reaction or behavior as a result of that. And what we want to encourage all of us to do in all aspects of our lives in many ways is to have a thoughtful response, so that when something happens and we're approached with a new idea, that we actually stop, think, process it a little bit, and make a decision that's thoughtful in nature versus more reactive in nature. I work on this on a daily basis with my children. Sometimes I'm very reactive when I need to just take a step back and think a moment before I actually make a choice on what I'm going to do. Fall plan. So this one I think is an important one from that fall prevention standpoint, is knowing how you're going to get up off the floor. Practicing it before you need it, okay? So you got a plan. And also how to tell someone to help you or how to not help you, okay? How to be an advocate of, I got this, just if you don't mind just standing by, I know what to do, I just need a minute, okay? There's a YouTube link here video that was shared with me a couple weeks past, and it's in your handouts. Now I will caveat that please be safe and don't assume just because it works for someone that's gonna work for you, because she shows some great different strategies for getting up off the floor, MacGyver style, okay, of how to be creative. So there's kind of some couple of, textbook ones they teach you in PT and OT school, and then she's got all the different stops on it. And there's one where she actually, in the top corner, she has a chair tower. So, or a book tower. Those are textbook. So she's like, what can you use in your environment to help you get off the floor? So she actually, if you watch the video, she's sitting on the floor by her bookshelf, and she's shifting and putting books underneath her hips until she gets herself up high enough that she can then stand up. Okay? So, I mean, just recognize that you can be, and that's what part of all this is, being adaptable, being creative, looking at your world and your space and finding solutions that work for you. Now, I do like and would encourage, she's against a wall, she's holding on to something sturdy, okay? So, and those looks like they're pretty wide books and stability there. Other quick things just for a fall plan is, a cell phone lifeline is a very important piece. Talking to your HCP, which is your healthcare provider, about a fall. I mentioned that earlier, that we want to know that's important. And don't hesitate if you do need medical assistance. If you have an injurious fall, then you do want to follow up with that. This is one I talked to a little bit already, but it's about balancing concern and confidence. So what we want to see is that through successful experiences, through trying different things and finding what works, you build your confidence about what you can do and feeling good about your decisions. And then that helps you get out and going places and doing things. The flip side of that is in making sure that we think about making, again, good choices and avoiding the unnecessary risks. That sometimes when we're like, the warning bell is going off and you're like, I know I shouldn't do that, but I really want to, I just want to finish this and get this done, or I really just need to get to that point, I think I can do it. Listen to the warning bells. I'm a firm believer that most people are very, very smart. If we just listen to ourselves and respect what our bodies are telling us, it will take us a long way. So thinking about not being overconfident and just think, oh yeah, I can do that. Oh yeah, I'm going to take that risk. And really trying to balance being confident with being too overconfident, okay? So just avoiding unnecessary risk while you're making good choices. The thoughtful response, I already talked a little bit about that, okay? About when we're thinking about those processes of thinking about stopping and taking a minute to really be reflective, so that we can have a good thoughtful response versus reactive. An example that we just gave in our fall prevention class was someone who went to the movies and was coming out of the movies and tripped and spilled popcorn all over the floor. And she was very embarrassed, and someone came over and helped her pick it up, and her immediate reactive response was, oh my God, that was horrible, I don't want that ever to happen again, I'm no longer going to the movies. Done. Okay, I mean, how many times we've done that where we're just like, okay, that happened, that was bad, nope, never doing that again. And so we work through in class a more thoughtful response of, can I wait until the lights come back on before I leave the movie theater so it's not so dark? Can someone else carry the popcorn next time I go to the movies? Can I bring a little flashlight so I can see where my seat is and where my feet are? Can I have someone help me? Can I take my device? So we kind of work through before we immediately have a reactive response and close doors, that we relook at situations, see how could we do this different? So adaptability is kind of a common theme that we're talking about here. I told you that I was going to tell you to think positive, so that's what that positive appraisal says there is. Again, positive self-talk can go a long way. We are a lot of what we believe about ourselves. So positive energy, positive self-talk, I can do this, I'm going to make this happen, and keep saying that over and over again until you finally believe it. And then bouncing back. So with MS, there are lots of challenges that get thrown your way, right? Lots of challenges. And challenges can be hard, but they also offer us the opportunity to grow and bounce back from those challenges and be stronger people because we've gone through that experience. And so there's a term called resilience, which is a term that describes this phenomenon of bouncing back, of rising to adversity and overcoming it, and even in some cases thriving, even being a stronger, living better, maybe not the exact way you were before, but differently, but from that experience. And so that is possible for each and every one of us. So talk to your MS team. In the article, I think I said, talk to your doctor. That was very limiting of me. It's not just, oh, Dr. Green is great, can handle all of your concerns. She's only one person, and we have a whole team of people that you have access to. So here you see a number of the people on your MS team at the center, and talking to them about walking balance to really understand what is it for you that's causing your walking balance problems, what sort of options are out there for treatment. Is it a medication to help your walking? Is it something to reduce the spasticity? Are you a good candidate for a cure or not? What are the other people on your rehab team that could be helpful? Is it a referral to occupational or physical therapy? Is it a referral to an orthotist? Is it talking to one of the nurses or one of the social workers about some other aspects in your life that are really giving you more stress and more challenges? If you got those dealt with, then you could focus more on your walking balance, so that we recognize that you're a whole person and we got to address all those different concerns for you. So talking to your team so they're on board. Number 9 was talking or working with a physical and occupational therapist. And I think Dr. Green did a nice job of saying PTs do the legs and OT do the arms. So that is a general, nice, simple way of thinking about it. If you can't probably read it, but here Einstein's in the middle, and it says difference between occupational therapy and physical therapy. Because there is a lot of overlap depending on who the practitioner is. I personally call myself a pseudo OT a lot, because I do a lot of OT things with fall management and energy management that in some clinics, occupational therapists do that. So my point is here is that recognizing that if you're seeing a therapist, either OT or PT, that asking them about, hey, is there something else that I could have some help? What does the other discipline do here? And recognizing often two heads can be better than one in giving you more input, okay? I have up here some of the different things that we think about with PT and OT. So on the far left, exercise is something both of us work heavily on in our toolbox. Walking and mobility instruction is typically more of a PT thing. We're usually the gurus for walking and balance problems. Fall plans, we see both PTs and OTs helping devise those in different situations. ADL assessment stands for activities of daily living. So OTs typically kind of own this most of the time about problem solving, how to be more effective in the kitchen, and how to do things better at home, how to do things better at work. But as PTs, we dabble there too. Occupational engagement, so what is your work or your hobbies that you really enjoy that you want to get back to, and how can you do that? Home modifications, you can see in the picture here, someone's sitting down in the kitchen to do some of their prep work on a cart. Okay, to make things more efficient and save some energy for them. Tools and equipment, we've talked a little bit about that with some of the walking equipment that I mentioned. The reacher is again a tool, so from a fall standpoint, if something's up real high, instead of standing on the chair to get into that cabinet, you could use a reacher to get it. Okay, so again, maybe changing how you do something. And then resources, just in terms of your community resources and things can help move you forward. So I can't encourage you enough that I think we often see our neurologists and our MS team at the center every 6 months, every year, and I would be an advocate of that dental model in terms of rehab sometimes. So if you're seeing changes, then we want to be proactive in those changes. So sometimes every year, at least a question of would it be a benefit for me to see a therapist just to get an assessment, to see where I'm at. Maybe it's just a one-time visit, maybe it's a little tune-up. But when they looked at research, when people have done a course of therapy, typically at about that 9 months part, they might see some regression. They're falling back a little bit. And so that tune-up can be very helpful to get you back on board with exercises, maybe try a different strategy for your walking or whatever your mobility challenge is for you. This one here just says reach out, recognizing that your support network is not just your healthcare team, it's the people sitting beside you here today, it's the people in your community. This is a picture of the MS Challenge Walk a few years back with everyone there in green being people living with MS walking 50 miles over a course of 3 days. So reaching out to all of your support, the One Step Further program that we're having here about getting connected to your community and those resources outside of the center as well. So this is if you've been to ever one of my talks, this is something I say almost every time, which is the benefits of doing these things, of walking well and falling less, is really to keep your lived world large, okay? Bottom line is I want your walking to look great, and I want you never to fall. But more important than those things is that I want you to get and do the things that are important to you, being with your family on the outing to the Muni, or going to the grandson's birthday party. And so when you stop doing those things, that's when we really got to problem solve different strategies of ways of doing things and more of that adaptability. So again, watch when you start to see that your world is getting smaller. It doesn't have to be. Okay, you can be adaptable. There's always another way of getting something done. And to me, that's the bottom line. Okay, that's why we get up in the morning. It's not to have perfect walking. Okay, that's not why I get up in the morning, is to strut. Okay, I get up in the morning because I have my kids to take care of and I've got this part of my job that's really important to me. That's why I get up in the morning. Okay, that's the bottom line that we got to keep focus on. So I kind of alluded to that already. Bottom line, keep your options open. So again, don't ever close the door. Don't be reactive. Be thoughtful. Be flexible. Be adaptable. Be active participant in your life and thinking about bouncing back from these challenges and actual thriving. I think I totally ignored my warning signs. No? Oh, good. All right, so we got to the point where we covered the basics. So we gave you an overview, some different strategies. So I think, can we do questions?
Okay, it was a good one. Should people with MS get an annual PT eval to measure needs and adjust? Why annually? Will my MS doctor give me a referral?
So we kind of talked a little bit about that I would advocate yes. for most people, a yearly evaluation by a physical therapist is ideal. Okay, now everyone's different, and that's something you need to talk to your doctor about, see what's right for you, but that's the conversation that I think you should be raising, because I think most of the time the team it would be agreement of that, but they're also covering a million other things as well. So this is where you need to be your own advocate. If you are noticing that you're having more falls, that you're having more problems with your walking and balance, that you are closing off opportunities in your life, then that's the time to call your doctor even ahead of time. Be like, there's significant changes. I think I might need to come in and see you and potentially see a therapist to address these things sooner than later.
Okay, thank you. The next question, I have developed osteopenia because of my gait. I also have a lot of pain in my hip. What can I do to help my situation? Would a brace help? Sorry.
Okay. So osteopenia is when we have weakening of the bones, okay? And she says it's related to her gait and pain in her hip, okay? So with osteopenia, the important things we want to do is balance exercise, weight-bearing exercise on the bones, okay, to encourage but not to overdo, okay? So an exercise program would be appropriate, particularly to help those joints and those bones that are affected. It sounds like the hip in this case. In terms of a brace, there is no brace that I'm aware of that would actually take significant load off the hip for pain, but what we need to look at is, why are you putting more stress on one hip? Are you having weakness in your foot on the other leg? Then potentially there could be a brace to help that. There is actually braces that help not only the foot, which I spoke to, but also braces that help weakness in the knee and some weakness in the hip. So if you're someone that has trouble bending your hip and bring it up, there are different braces that for some people can help give you a little bit more lift or spring in that fashion as well. So there might be a brace to help the walking mechanics, and that would eventually then correlate a little bit to some help with the concern for the osteopenia and the pain.
Thank you. When does the MS exercise class with Nancy begin?
Oh, it's a great question. I know there's two going currently. It's Tuesdays and Thursday mornings at 9 o'clock, okay? I know what she does is that she will let people come in for a one-time session. I think it's $10 just to try out the class. So before you commit, you can come basically, I believe, any time into the class and at least give it a trial run and to see if you enjoy the class, okay? So I encourage you to think about doing that. It's held at the Mercy Town and Country location where therapy services next to Dr. Green and the office.
What are your thoughts on Bioness equipment?
So Bioness is an electrical stimulation device that stimulates the peroneal nerve, which is the nerve that innervates the muscles to lift up your foot. So if you're someone that has significant weakness in those muscles, the Bioness or the walk aid can be beneficial to help. And I would encourage you to look at seeing a therapist that can do an evaluation and actually try that device on with you to see if you get the right lift in your foot that you're looking for.
How do you handle the fear of steps or curbs? I try to avoid steps.
Okay. So steps and curves can be challenging. They're physically can be hard to do, and they can be challenging from that mindset, especially on the top of the stairs looking down, okay? So again, this is something where you have to think about that thoughtful versus reactive response. And first off is examining your fear. So I'm glad to hear this person saying, I recognize I'm fearful. What can I do about it, okay? So to me, training successfully in that experience is going to be very important to resolving the fear of steps. So practicing it with appropriate equipment, either 1 or 2 handrails, potentially using a device, having someone with you to look at your movement. Sometimes we do stairs a little differently if we have a leg that's really weak, and so being adaptable and finding a new strategy for going up and down stairs.
Is there an MS exercise DVD?
So there are a number of MS exercise DVDs. The National MS Society has a lending library, so you can contact them, and they have a number of DVDs I believe you can check out and see. So I encourage you to go there.
Okay. This is about Nordic poles. Do I need training with a PT to learn how to use them, or do you buy them personally at a store, and does insurance pay for them?
Or does the person, do you need a PT to learn how to use them, or can the personnel in the store show you, and is that okay? And then does insurance cover the cost of the pole?
I don't believe insurance covers the cost of the poles to my knowledge, okay? Insurance doesn't like to cover a raised toilet seat. They usually do cover canes and walkers at a basic level. I don't believe they cover the Nordic poles. Now, granted, my own personal bias as a therapist is that I usually like to be involved when you're trying a new piece of equipment, so my personal bias would be if you could see a therapist, at least for a visit, to ensure you're using them properly and getting the right setup, that would be ideal.
Could insurance cover that?
The visit, yes. If you have insurance, typically insurance covers physical therapy. Almost every insurance has some component of coverage for therapy in there. You might have a copay, so you'd want to call your insurance to find out, but usually you're going to at least have a number of therapy visits. Do we have time to read the book?
And please join me in thanking our speakers, and then good night, thanks for coming.
If you need to leave, I will not be offended if you don't chain for story time, but, okay. I don't know if I can see all the pictures if I read. If you get the front row, you got a good view. So, Oh, the Places You'll Go by Dr. Seuss. Congratulations, today is your day. You're off to great places. You're off and away. You have brains in your head. You have feet in your shoes. You can steer yourself any direction you choose. You're on your own and you know what you know, and you are the guy who will decide where to go. You'll look up and down streets, look them over with care. About some you will say, I don't choose to go there. With your head full of brains and your shoes full of feet, you're too smart to go down any not-so-good street. And you may not find any you'll want to go down. In that case, of course, you'll head straight out of town. It's opener there in the wide open air. Out there, things can happen, and frequently do, to people as brainy and footsy as you. And when things start to happen, don't worry, don't stew. Go right along, you'll start happening too. Oh, the places you'll go. You'll be on your way up. You'll be seeing great sights. You'll join the high flyers. You'll soar with high heights. You won't lag behind because you'll have the speed. You'll pass the whole gang. You'll soon take the lead. Wherever you fly, you'll be best of the best. Wherever you go, you will top all the rest. Except when you don't, because sometimes you won't. I'm sorry to say so, but sadly it's true that bang-ups and hang-ups can happen to you. You'll get all hung up in a prickly perch, and your gang will fly on, and you'll be left in a lurch. You'll come down from the lurch in an unpleasant bump, and the chances by then are you'll be in a slump. And when you're in a slump, it's not much fun. Unslumping yourself is not easily done. You'll come to a place where the streets are not marked, some windows are lighted, but mostly they're dark. A place you could sprain both your elbow and chin. Do you dare to stay out? Do you dare to go in? How much can you lose? How much can you win? And if you go in, should you turn left or right? Or go around back and sneak in from behind? Simple it's not, I'm afraid you will find, for a mind maker upper to make up his mind. You can get so confused that you'll start in to race down long wiggled roads at breaknecking pace and grind on for miles across wishful wild places, headed, I fear, for a most unpleasant place, the waiting place. For people just waiting. Waiting for the train to go, or a bus to come, or a plane to go, or the mail to come, or the rain to go, or the phone to ring, or the snow to snow, or waiting around for a yes or a no, or waiting for their hair to grow. Everyone is just waiting. Waiting for the fish to bite, or waiting for the wind to fly a kite, or waiting for Friday night, or waiting perhaps for their Uncle Jake, or a pot to boil, or a better break, or a string of pearls, or a pair of pants, or a wig with curls, or another chance. Everyone is just waiting. No, that is not you. Somehow you'll escape all that waiting and staying, and you'll find bright places where the boom bands are playing. With banner flip-flapping, what's more, you'll ride high, ready for anything under the sky, ready because you're that kind of guy. Oh, the places you'll go, the fun to be done, there are points to be scored, there are gains to be won, and the magical things you can do with that ball will make you the winningest winner of all. Fame, you'll be famous as famous can be, with the whole wild world watching you win on TV. We're about 3/4 of the way done. I know it's kind of long. Except when they don't, because sometimes they won't. I'm afraid that sometimes you'll play lonely games too, games you can't win because you play against you. All alone, whether you like it or not, alone will be something you'll be quite a lot. And when you're alone, there's a very good chance you'll meet some things that scare you right out of your pants. There are some down the road between hither and yon that can scare you so much that you won't want to go on. But on you will go, though the weather be foul. On you will go, though your enemies prowl. On you will go through the hacker-hacks howl. Onward up many a frightening creek, though your arms may get sore and your sneakers may leak. On you will hike, and I know you'll hike far, and face up to your problems, whatever they are. You'll get mixed up, of course, but you already know you'll get mixed up with some strange birds as you go. So be sure when you step with care and great tact, and remember that life's a great balancing act. That's my favorite line. Just never forget to be dexterous and deft, and never mix up your right foot with your left. And will you succeed? Yes, you will indeed. 98.75% guaranteed. Kid, you'll move mountains. Last page. So, be your name Buxom or Bixie or Bray or Mordecai Allen by Alan O'Shea. You're off to great places. Today is your day. Your mountain is waiting, so get on your way. Thank you.
How would you